difficulties our students face abroad? We'll take that and then we'll come back.
You give a scholarship. Honestly, I believe it will be best if all the money is immediately remitted to the embassy or consulate abroad. That way, if you are sending this person for 2 years, the money for 2 years will have been remitted ahead of time. It's no point for the student to get to Moscow, to London, to Paris, or to Toronto, only to find out that money was sent for only the first semester. And from the second semester, the student gets stranded. What makes it sad for me is that the presidential scholarship was given to Nigerian students who will go to the best 25 universities in the world. For these universities to admit anyone, it means that you are certified to be brilliant. You are not average. You are on the verge of genius. You are outstanding. You are excellent. How do we then leave such students to be stranded? That's my sorrow. What we found in Russia was most pathetic. And that's why we felt it's time now for us to stop this nonsense. It's either that we don't give scholarship, but if we must give scholarship, out of respect for the dignity of our youth, we must honor them by paying them timely. I will tell you one more thing that is terrible about it. Nigeria is probably the only country in the world that will designate its currency, its scholarship or stipend abroad in terms of its own local currency.
This is not the first time we're hearing about this issue. Not long ago, some of our Nigerian students in Russia, had to go on the streets protesting because they're stranded. And now again, this one is coming from students who were supposed to be under the sponsorship of Bauchi state government. Let me start with you, Mr. Shopito. If we cannot afford to school our young people abroad, why do we keep doing it?
I think the question should be, why shouldn't we be able to afford to school them?
I don't know.
So this is a country that allocates 7% of its national budget to education,
which is
against the recommended 26% by UNESCO and by the United Nations. We really do have to get serious as a country. The whole concept of scholarships is to pick your brightest minds and give them the best education available anywhere in the world. That should be the concept behind it. Why? So that they can go, learn, come back, and develop your country.
Exactly.
If we are unable to do this, then it shows that we have no value for the future. Now, of course, it's not surprising, given the fact that a lot of these states have been struggling to pay salaries. So, of course, scholarships will definitely suffer. But I think that is just an indication of how twisted our values are and how dysfunctional the system is. Our what's it called, administrative structure and administrative system is simply not delivering on the things that are most important to the development and the growth of our country. So we really need to look at it. But it's not just, like you said, it's not just Bauchi State. A lot of states are caught up in this web of inability to meet up the scholarship obligations. I wouldn't say they should stop. I think we need, this is where Nigerians as a people come in. We need to demand these guys do the right thing. Can they tell me if they are still taking, Bauchi State Governor, is he still taking a security vote on a monthly basis? I'm sure he is. You know, so there is a lot of money, there is a lot of priority. We're not getting,
misplaced priorities,
it's too misplaced.
yes.
We're not getting things right.
And
as
again,
society,
the
it's
state
sad.
government in Bauchi have started selling forms again for
For
the
for
next
another
batch of
batch of
when you
scholarships.
haven't taken care
It's
of
ridiculous.
Mr. Kimie,
Yes,
this is in bad taste for me.
It's actually a bad taste. Actually, I think, like my colleague said, it's misplacement of priorities and improper planning. If we take our youth to be anything to our future, if we regard them as, you know, the future of our country and we respect their dignity, there is no how we should allow them to be roaming. After having sent them to school and scholarship, there's no how that any state government will allow their students to be roaming on the streets of
Whatever
the
country,
countries
yeah.
they've been sent to school. So I'm saying, if it's not possible, given the finances of the state, to send these students overseas, why not reduce the number of students that you send abroad to school? Ensure that it's the brightest and the best that you send. Ensure that courses for which you send them to are not available in the country. Domesticate their education. Improve on the standards of the schools that you have locally. And then cut costs on some of these things that you do by sending thousands of students abroad. Some of them are going to study courses that are very much available in our country. You send somebody to study overseas, to study history, to study English. I don't think that makes sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
If you are sending somebody to study nuclear physics, for example, one will understand. So we need to reevaluate our sponsorship scheme, government sponsorship scheme or scholarship scheme. Then coming to that, the issue of the capacity, whether we are able to, like I said, misplacement of priorities. Because if you look at the amount of corruption that is in the land, what we have read from the newspapers, what we have seen on TV of politicians who have carted away funds of state. These funds, if redirected towards development, especially the critical area like education, this kind of story will not be gone up. So there is culpability on the part of political office holders.
Okay.
Also.
All right. Chooks.
Okay, you know, I don't know how people will take what I'm going to say, but I like to say things the way they come to my mind and the way I've experienced it. Sending people abroad for schooling is fantastic, good idea. But give me the position as a president or governor, I won't do that. Yes, it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Really, to me, it's good that we're sending our people to go and compete in Ivy universities, but if you look at the state of education in Nigeria, I would rather spend that money in trying to fix the institutions we have. Just use calculator and check what it will cost to send over 1,000 students to go school somewhere abroad. Check what it comes to. If I put it in one university in Nigeria and employ good hands, even go to those people that teach abroad, I'll bring them here to teach more people. You know, these are the kind of stories that you hear in this country and you begin to understand what corruption means. It was here that we were doing immigration recruitment and people have to buy card to apply for a job, and in giving job is become another avenue to make revenue. I really don't understand. So if you find that as good as that idea is, somebody is sitting on it, somebody is making money from government continuing to do all those things.
And thereby jeopardizing
because
the whole essence of it.
The truth is that a lot of people felt money will keep coming, like it used to come. Part of the problem we are having now is that a lot of people spent recklessly thinking that it was going to be business as usual. Now money is not coming. That's why these things are playing out. How do you budget money for students to go to school and then those students are stranded? It's a disgrace to that state. It's a disgrace to that governor. And but these things will always put us up like people who are not really serious. I was talking to somebody, and the man said something very instructive. He said that if he has the opportunity, he will rather refocus the kind of courses we study and make us to study courses that will give us immediate results. I am telling you now that if you want somebody that will lay tiles properly, you need to go to Cotonou or somewhere in Togo. And I ask you, how many tiling happens in this country per day?
People are building houses.
So why are we interested in studying some courses that I really...
ambiguous.
Because we are a developing nation.
Nature.
If you need a good carpenter now, you need to find somebody from these other countries that will come and do it. But what happens to technical education? These are the things we need. Chinese are here. Why are the Chinese here? Because our technical education is down. So the Chinese have stepped into that gap. Not only that the Chinese are there now, the Togolese have stepped in. The Beninois, they are there. What exactly, if they go to all these universities, what plans do you have for them? They will come back to this place. Do you have a challenge that you are thinking, okay, let's send these people to come back and fix this? There's no plan, I can tell you. They just do these things. It's a routine.
Yeah.
So we make some...
Let it look like we're doing something.
To quickly pick up on something that Chooks just
Go
said
ahead.
now. Very interesting. So I just quickly punched my calculator. And if... seriously, I just quickly punched it and I discovered that if that Bauchi State is paying $10,000 for the full whatever number of years that course is, I'm assuming, we don't have the facts. 1,000 students, $10,000 is 3.6 billion naira. Just imagine
put that in the schools.
That money would have done in Bauchi State education sector. So I do get the point he's making, and I think
these things don't make sense, really. You don't, like, there's something we say in our place. You are not as a king. You want to be buried like a king. Don't pretend like we are saying, no, let's deal with domestic issues. Yes. Part of the problem we have is that we are interested in launching satellite and launching. Then back home, people can't turn tap and get water to drink. Does it really make sense? You don't get anything right, but we want to play big. Why are you deceiving, really?
We're not real.
Why are you deceiving? I don't believe in all those cosmetic kind of, no. You get down to the real deal. I was talking to somebody, I said, look, we are talking of job creation. And I read somewhere they were giving money to textile companies as what they call, kind of, I don't know what to call it, but they give them money to support what they are doing. Not like they are going to subvention kind of. Or subsidize or whatever you call it. They always have this, they have all these words. And I ask people, when you give them this money, then what do you do? My opinion is that if we want to get our textiles industry right, that place will employ a whole lot of people. But they should stop producing fashion garments. They should produce uniforms. Make a law that all the school uniforms in Nigeria should be produced in this country. Let's see if those industries will survive. Because the market is there. We have police uniform, we have road safety, we have all kinds of uniform. Let them just concentrate producing uniform. Why do you want to produce fashion? The markets that you don't have.
Even the fashion, right? Even the fashion you're talking about, we could produce fashion. But then, apart from selling our fashion in here, we could also sell Nigeria couture out there.
That's given, but you are looking at how do we survive, make this investment and make our money back. Count how many schools we have in Nigeria. It gives you the number of uniforms you have in Nigeria. If these people will consider just make school uniforms, every term you know how many people that enter school. It means the market is there. That's the market the Chinese people have taken. All the school uniforms you see in Nigeria are made in China. And people are talking about sending students abroad to go and school to do what? What kind of do
the uniforms of our members of our armed forces?
All of them.
Police, all that.
They are all made abroad.
I think we should start from home.
This is a very sad one. It's a sad one. So what becomes of these young Nigerians who left home with so much hope? You know what I mean? I'm going abroad to go study to be a better person. And all of a sudden, the government leaves them, they're out cold. What becomes of them? Should we start thinking of bringing them back home? Because it looks like...
It's a responsibility of government. The government took up the task. and government should finish it. The federal government should intervene or cost those state governments that are affected to ensure that these students finish the schooling. And if need be, federal government should deduct at source monies that are supposed to pay for their education till finish. Deduct at source to ensure that these students don't get stranded and they complete their courses and come back home. Otherwise, we will have a number of our youths out there facing the vagaries of life, which they are not supposed to be exposed to, because it was not, in the first place, it was not their making to go there. It was the government that sponsored them. The government has the responsibility now to ensure that they finish their education, no matter what. So they have to now reorder their priorities.
Okay.
So don't they have agreements? I mean,
I don't understand. And, you know, already they are selling scratch cards again for more people to get stuck in the same thing.
It's an obligation, just like he said, it's an obligation and government must fulfill its obligation. It's a must. They need to make sure they send money. They have to. I know they can find that money.
Why are we worried about these people? I've told everybody who cares to listen that the problem of Nigeria is the states. If we don't fix the state, all these ones we are shouting about Abuja, but that's not where our problem is. This government, I tell people, this government came into power. The first thing they did, the first tax was bailout. Yeah, to pay salary. For state government that were collecting allocation every month, could not pay salary up to 10, 8, 9 months.
Very sad.
So why are you surprised that people are stranded in foreign lands? What can they not do?
Like you said, the problem is states. Huh? And on a wider note, the problem is us Nigerians. We appear to have lost our values. And that's why it's important that one of the things that we must embark upon is a value reorientation.
I agree with you entirely.
For God's sake.
We don't have value for anything anymore.
No value for anything, no value for life. And we just treat everything with levity. I think one of the things we need to embark upon as a government is value reorientation. Because it's about the people. The leadership is a product of the people. One, it is the electorate that vote them in. Two, they are voted from the citizenry and not from outside. They are Nigerians. So we need, if we are going to get a crop of good leaders in future, we need to start to do, reorder our values even from now. So that the leaders that prop up from the system, at least will have been grounded in what you call a righteousness. You understand what I'm saying? Morality and all of that. Yeah, so we the people are also part of the problem.
Okay, let's look at how viewers are reacting. The love of your people is the beginning of good government. Nigerian scholarship problem is fund mismanagement. Scholarship should be for technical / advanced science courses. Development begins with the development of our education sector. This one says no to sending people abroad. You and I study here in Nigeria and you speak well and you do well. Do you think studying there makes them better than you? Okay. I mean, please, I think the government, they should just do right by the people, like when you hear the amount of money paid in security votes, you hear the amount of money flying up and down, in terms of misappropriation, you wonder really, so if you're not doing what you are put there to do, what then are you doing?
You see,
what are you now doing?
It's terrible. We need to, like I said, you need to set proper priorities. We look at the education sector, for example. Look at the public school system. I read WhatsApp messages. I weep. In fact, I puke. Master degree holders. Look at the kind of English that they speak and write. Products of the public university system. And it's this same public universities that we attended. Whatever happened?
I don't know.
Where did it go wrong? We need to revisit our education sector. If it means importing teachers from overseas, we shall do it.
Okay. Chima Ofondu, a Nigerian residing in Equatorial Guinea, says they are lucky that they are stranded. They are not in prison. Go to Libya prison, you will tear Aso Rock. But we need deliverance. Wow. I mean, it tells you how bad,
It's very bad.
you know, the system had gotten to. All right, we need to move on to our last topic this afternoon. This other one says, I believe Nigeria is less developed, whereby there are not enough facilities and teachers. National Orientation Agency advises against hate speech, and they say Nigerians should take an oath on speaking peaceful words. Director of the National Orientation Agency for Kwara State, Mr. Olusegun Adeyemi, has canvassed that Nigerians should take an oath of speaking peace and stick to their words, particularly at a time like we are in Nigeria, when many are easily moved to speak hate speeches. He urged politicians to prevent crises and conflicts by eliminating hate speeches, pointing out that most of the uprisings, tribal wars, religious crises, and ethnic clashes Nigeria has experienced in the past can be traced to intolerance and a series of hate pronouncements, hate speeches, hate conduct, and hate actions by leaders and citizens. I'm convinced that Nigerians, especially at a time like this, must take an oath of speaking peace and permanently stick to our words. But at least I'm excited that National Orientation Agency is in the news. For once.
At the point
I'm
I was
happy they are even
wondering
in the
whether they are
news.
still there.
Exactly. You know that they are even in the news tells me, okay, maybe we are finally waking up from slumber. But having said that, for a lot of people, I think where the problem starts is they don't know what hate speech really is, where it starts, where it ends, because everything has gotten to a passionate level for Nigerians because of so much hunger in the land. Everybody's passionate about how they feel. So whatever they are saying is coming from the core. You understand what I mean? So when you put hate speech in the face of a hungry man, I don't think he really understands what you're trying to say. So let us act as an arm of the NOA for once and maybe educate people on what hate speech really is. Chooks, you're a journalist. So let's take it from a journalistic point of view.
You know, sometimes I wonder what those who sit in government agencies, what exactly they do, honestly. I sit down sometimes, I think like, what's this guy, what are they doing? How do they conceive some of these things? When you say hate speech, it's when people say things that, saying things that's against or that's not right, that's not true, that can harm somebody or harm the society or lead to uprising or something. That's what they consider hate speech. But in the context, he's talking about people speaking good about Nigeria. And let me tell you what an average Nigerian needs. Nigerians think their leader, they are so disconnected from the leadership. You see all this noise that you are hearing everywhere is because the people felt disconnected. They felt these people don't even know we exist.
Nothing for us here.
That is the basic. You know, I always tell people, you see this Buhari government, criticize him, he has done one or two things right. And one thing he has failed to do and failed woefully is to connect with the people, for the people to earn the trust of the people. Even those who are criticizing him, I'm sure if I take them around to show them what is government, they will be surprised. But the main thing Nigerians need now is a leader that can unify us, somebody we can trust. Even if things are bad, who understand and say, yes, let's find a way. A typical example, when Fashola was governor in this Lagos was not easy for us. But do you know what? We'll still go back to our and say, well, the guy is doing this guy is trying.
I remember there were bills.
But people will still come and say, no, but the guy is really, no, this is a government.
I get what you mean.
You know, you need to connect to people. You need to earn that respect you are looking for. It's not something you give other people, take oath. Who does that? I know when a government is doing right, and people will support you if you are doing what is right. But when you begin to sit there and think, is that people taking oath to hell? People take oaths in this country, then what does it amount to? We should take things, we should go to tangibility. What are the things that are tangible? You should show remorse. If there are people are feeling bad about something, you should show it. I remember those days, there was a day we had this building collapse in Lagos, and I saw Fashola very early in the morning. The way he dressed, you know that this man had not taken his bed. He just came out. And he was there. And people, even those who were affected, were happy that what? This thing happened, and the governor was among the first set of people to come out. That's what Nigerians are clamoring for.
Okay, all right.
I think if I understand what he's saying, I think leadership should show a very high degree of emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. And that's what I think the problem is, that disconnect between the leadership and the people. We should be able to feel the pains of the people. We should be able to empathize when things happen in such a way that the people will know that, yes, the government is concerned about them. So when there's that disconnect, what you find is
that's what you call hate speech comes, because people will respond the way they can.
The way they feel.
That's the only way they can.
And they have a right.
That's the only way to get back at you.
You know, but besides that, also, there has been a lot of division in the country in the last few years. Divisions along lines of ethnicity, lines of religion, and all that. That a lot of injustice in the system, that itself has kind of brought about, you know, this avalanche of hate speeches. But be that as it may, you cannot use an oath, making Nigerians to swear to an oath to stop the issue of hate speeches. Even political office holders.
They take oaths. They all take oaths. What happens?
On assumption of office,
they all take oaths.
At the end of the day.
Not to talk of the ordinary Nigerians.
Exactly.
What will fly in the present circumstance is, one, for government to meet the yearnings of the people. Two, for government to create instruments, using the instrumentality of the NOA, to bring about unification of the Nigerian people. For government to put aside everything and anything that has to do with divisive elements in appointments, in policies and programs. Government should put Nigeria first before talking region, ethnicity, or kinsmanship.
Okay, all right.
So to answer the question that you asked earlier, what exactly is hate speech? Because I think there's still a lot of confusion out there about this, and perhaps even the gentleman that spoke, you know, who unfortunately is an official of the NOA, doesn't even understand what hate speech is. Hate speech is any attack on a group of people based on their attributes. So you could be talking of ethnicity. When I speak contrarily about Fulani people as an example, as a very topical example, that's hate speech. So if I look at you and say bloody headsmen, you know, that becomes, or if I look at somebody and say you ordinary woman like you, that's hate speech, because you are attacking that person based on the attributes of that person and the group that person belongs to, or, you know, religion, you know, like you said. So it's important for us to first of all understand that we need to stop that. We need to, as a society, stop attacking each other based on what, you know, things that I have no control over. I mean, I was born a Yoruba man.
Which is supposed to be our beauty, by the way.
I was born a Yoruba man, and I was born a man. And I was born a Christian. Nobody should attack me based on those things. I didn't make those choices. You know, so, and then coming back to the NOA talking about oaths, it's a pity, because for me, one of the things that I thought that this government should have done very early on in its tenure, like my colleague said, you know, the elections were very divisive, right? The elections left the country extremely fractioned based on all these fault lines. And I expected that the NOA would have come out with a very, very clearly defined campaign to unite us, you know, first, and then to reorient, you know, they're called National Orientation Agency, for crying out loud. There is no doubt that Nigerian society needs some orientation in terms of the values that we stand for, the things that we hold dear and hold true. Okay. You know, so it's a pity that this guy seems to have missed.
Yeah, so we all need to know what hate speech is. If you as a Ghanaian, I mean, you come and tell me my jollof rice as a Nigerian is whack. It's hate speech.
That's hate speech, right?
It's hate speech, you know, it depends on how I read it. lighter note. Anyways, on the last note, in a country where economy and the leadership is messed up, hate speech is a must because everybody is frustrated. We don't have hope. All our leaders are second citizens of another European country. So hate speech is inevitable. On that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out this afternoon and being a part of the show. Mr. Akime, with all these issues in Nigeria, you still want to contest for president?
I was born for this.
Okay, all right. Thank you for coming on the show. Mr. Davidson Akime is a presidential aspirant and he's a security expert. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Shegun Shokwito, a business and financial consultant. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. And of course, Mr. Chuks Nwane, a renowned journalist with the Guardian newspapers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you, viewers, for joining us on the program today. We'll be back tomorrow at noon. Make it a date. Have yourself a good day.